Step on it. Step, push.
From a value perspective, I think this is the best bang for the buck. There we are. The fitment on them is pretty perfect. That is good, DP. Ooh, that is, can a 4-cylinder sound that good? Welcome to my 2018 BMW 330i Touring build. Get excited, guys, because this one is gonna be great. And now, before we get into the build, quick story time. For those of you that do or don't remember, my daily driver slash family hauler was a 2024 Ford Bronco that we had built last year, and I didn't necessarily love it. Now, the Bronco is a great vehicle if you're off-roading, but for on-road use, it was just too loud on the highway. It was kind of raw, and the kids didn't love it, so ultimately it meant I needed something else. Now, if you know me, I'm not a big SUV guy, so I wanted to downsize and see if a station wagon such as this could work as a true daily driver and family hauler. So ultimately, I settled on this car, an F31 BMW 330i wagon. And if we were in Europe, I would have gone with a 5 Series wagon, but basically this is the only BMW, or the last of the wagon BMWs that you can get here in North America. And what makes this car so appealing to me is this actually has a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo engine making 255 horsepower and 258 foot-pounds of torque, mated through an 8-speed automatic, and it is xDrive, so all-wheel drive. So that means I can drive this thing during the winter, summer, fall, all year round. And for those of you that don't know, the B48 here is actually the smaller sibling to the B58, which is an incredibly reliable engine found in the Toyota Supra and a bunch of other performance BMWs. And so far, I have put over 5,000 miles on this vehicle, and I absolutely love it, and I've had no problems. And this might be the one, DP. This might be the BMW that I can say is a reliable one. And the guys over at FCP Euro have done a video. I will link it. It is wonderful on the B48, and some of the problems already starting, but I haven't experienced any of them, so I think we are good. And as for trunk space, you can see it is decent sized. I've been able to fit 8 tires in the back here with the seats folded down, so it's certainly better than a sedan, but from an SUV standpoint, it does compromise it a little bit. The F-Series to me is, I think, one of the last great looking BMWs. However, in stock form, there is a little bit more to be desired, so let's get this thing up on the hoist and get started with all those mods.
Before we get started on the suspension swap, let's take a moment to thank Eibach, the sponsor of this build series. And we want to thank Eibach for making these kinds of builds possible, and all of our sponsors really, because without the support of sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do cool builds like this. And most of us in the performance car world, of course, know them for their lowering springs as well as their ERS racing springs. However, they've just launched this new Eibach replacement line of springs meant to meet OE specifications in terms of spring rate and overall, diameter, height, and all that good stuff. And the reason they've done this is because, as you can see here, we have a couple of examples of OE springs that have died an honorable death here in the Rust Belt, both in Canada, the Midwest, and the States, where things get rusty. You can actually have springs fail completely like this one did. So this one broke, and this is like your very typical looking Honda spring from 20 years of exposure in Canada. They start to look really bad, but they also start to lose their ability to function properly. If it's broken, obviously you've got a problem, but they can also lose their ability to function as a spring as they age out like this. So Eibach felt there was a need on the market for people who want to replace their OE springs rather than a lowering spring or a racing spring. And so they've brought these to market for a wide variety of fitments, including all the big German manufacturers, as well as Chevy, Ford, Toyota. And that line is going to grow rapidly in the coming months and years. And the beauty of this is that it's got an extremely durable coating on it. So it's an epoxy resin powder coating, but underneath that they also zinc coat it beforehand. They also put it through all kinds of testing to make sure that it is a perfect match for the OE specification for your vehicle. So this is a great option for both, the home enthusiast who wants to replace their OE spring, but also for you shop guys out there. If you're running a shop and you have a customer come in and they've got broken rear springs, well, you'll now be able to go to your wholesale distributor and say, hey, I want the Eibach ERL, OE replacement spring for this customer's car. And if they don't have it in stock, then sign up with Turn 14 Distribution, or here in Canada, sign up with Marcor, or you can walk into Marcor storefront at Northern Performance and buy these that way. But anyway, we wanted to let you guys know that this is now an option from Eibach. If you're looking for an 08 replacement spring, we think this is the way to go. However, on Pete's BMW, we want to lower it, so we're going to go with something red instead.
So to remove the front suspension on this BMW, it is, I'm gonna say, easier than a Golden Era Honda, DP.
Really?
Look at this.
That's a
There
bold
is.
statement.
So we have an end link that we have to take off here. So I'm gonna take that off right now. And what we have here is a very common problem. The rusted thread on the end link is spinning the entire piece. And this tool here, DP, I didn't even realize we had this in the set, but this is actually a pass-through socket set. You can see this.
Oh yeah.
So you put this on as such here, and then what we do is put this into here, and look, and then we can turn this. Oh, I gotta go that way here. And look, and now we take this off. And the other bolt here is the pinch bolt that holds the strut in place here. Now the plastic trim also comes off easy here, DP. It's like BMW's learned their lessons with the E46s, the other cars. There's a bunch of work that needed to be done. Look at this. 3 little like plastic clip bolts that just turn, pop off, and we basically have access to the bolts that we need to remove here. Now this is where things get beefy. Look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it connects the strut tower running to the chassis right here with a 6 bolt. Look at that, DP.
That's beefy.
That is beefy. That is some Autobahn stuff, and I can attest, this car drives amazing at highway speeds, and that's primarily why I love it so much. It's just such a nice cruiser.
I hate to admit it, but I drove it for a weekend myself, and it does drive exceptionally well.
It just does, like the F-Series. The F-Series is such a sweet spot, I think, for BMWs. Like, you're either into the old stuff, you know what I mean? Or you get into some of the newer stuff, like the new G Series is meh, in my opinion, where these ones look good, like F80. My dream, DP, I already have plans for this. This would be a full M3 conversion, an F80 M3. Buy a crashed one, do the front end conversion, cut the rear arches out of the car, put that in. Obviously a whole drivetrain swap, interior swap. Now you can see that the shock is still very tight in the spindle. That's because this spindle does need to be opened, and usually what you do is like take a screwdriver, hammer it into here, but I'm just full of new fascinating tools that I've discovered, and this tool here is exactly what you want, which is a little expander tool that goes right in there, and then you just start expanding it, and watch what happens. It opens it up. And then you just continue until this becomes loose. You can see, there, that's it. So that's expanded enough, and now this should just slide out. However, the trick here is you kind of have to push down on this. It's not, I don't wanna give people advice to do this, because the right way to do it is actually disconnect a couple arms below, which will really allow this to move. This being an all-wheel drive vehicle, also the axle can pop out, which is likely what's gonna happen in this case, but you can pop it back in. A little bit of paint protection right here, just in case the shock were to slip and hit. But you can see, you just gotta step on it, DP. Gotta step, push.
Wow, that's tight.
There. Yes, there we are. In most cases, the next step would be to remove the strut top and spring and then swap it over to the lowering spring. However, I've decided to make a bit of an upgrade, and the boys over at FCP Euro have a complete suspension package for the F30 and F31, which means you get everything. So they've taken literally all of the guesswork out of putting together a package. So going to source this little rubber piece that sits on the bottom of the shock. I wouldn't know where to get that. They've already done it. You don't even need a spring compressor, which to me is a really, really big win. This is the new bump stop from Eibach, so we slide that on there. On goes the Eibach spring. Better make sure it's the right way. And these are the Sportline version of their lowering springs. They have two options for this, which is a Pro Kit and a Sportline kit. The Pro Kit drops your car by 1.2 inches up front, 1 in the rear. This is 1.6 up front and 1.4 in the rear. I want the lower setup on this. And as you can see, there is our, basically, I don't know what you call this, the top little rubber isolator. And then now the top mount goes on here as such.
That top mount is a work of art. Look at that thing.
I know. Well, it's gotta be. And there we go. Now we just need the last bolt here. Look at this, no compressing of a spring, nothing. I just gotta do this by hand, push it down a little bit just to get it started. There you go, what was that? 2 minutes?
Pretty easy.
And we have it assembled. So without reversing the same procedure as removal, what I do is I put the whole assembly in here as such, and now I kind of push this down, and you can see, you can slowly wiggle it back in here. There we go. And now it is on. The FCP Euro kit also includes new bolts, and that begs the question, are these one-time use, DP? Does BMW say shock bolts are one-time use?
I imagine they probably do.
Like, that just...
They're stretched to, you know...
Here's my conspiracy theory on this kind of stuff. This is all done, they're not really one-time use, but they do it so then they can charge you $5 a bolt when you bring your BMW in to get serviced, and all of a sudden, you know, your bill is $200 extra because every bolt is one-time use. Is that, you know,
it does leave you wondering for sure, but
could be, maybe, possibly.
It could be. Even Honda and Toyota have a lot of different bolts that are theoretically one-time use, and we just reuse them because that's been the culture of modifying those cars.
But like these top bolts, come on. So quick pro tip, you always want to compress the suspension a little bit before you put this, you know, pinch bolt back through into here, because you just never know if it is sitting a wee bit higher, it can actually affect your ride height. I see greatness here. Wow, they have mounted this shock with bolts from the outside. Unlike all the other cars, we gotta peel out half the interior to get to the 1 bolt or 2 bolts. Look at this, Dave.
You know what other car does this? The greatest car in the world, Lexus LS 430. Same thing, PT.
Well,
it's not just the Germans.
You're right.
When the Japanese copy the Germans.
Maybe the Japanese copied the Germans here, because I do recall, I think a bunch of the German cars had this, but this is all win. I am, again, my hat off to these guys, because this is a brilliant idea. Not having to go inside to pull a shock is just, this makes so much sense. Our shock bolt pulls out, which in turn now has freed up our shock and our spring, and look at this. This is feeling good working on a BMW like this, DP. It's all going well.
Bearings and Vanos rebuilds?
Well, not this one. Not this one. This engine's not gonna need any rod bearing service, which is, you know, maybe in 10, 15 years it may, but right now, they're still good. Actually, if you go watch that FCP Euro video, that reminds me, these bearings are actually coated because of the start-stop technology. It's like really hard on a car. So pro tip, don't use start-stop in any vehicle. You may think it's saving you a little bit of gas, but it's also ruining your engine. So definitely don't do that. And you can see now the spring is out here. Let's compare stock to Eibach. Look at the difference. That is, I think, gonna be pretty significant in terms of ride height. And now to put these back in, man, super easy. Basically, go like that, push this arm down, pop this in. A little crusty in here. Even though this is an interesting design, you can see the cap covers the top here and is supposed to protect it from the elements, but you can see it is starting to look a little corroded in there. Anyways, the reason why we are taking this The reason why we're taking this apart is we do need to reuse the factory bump stop and this little dust boot. That's the one thing that the FCP Euro kit doesn't come with, so we do need to swap this over. So you can see just putting the new top hat on, and once this is in place, we can kind of bolt everything back together here. There you have it. A pretty straightforward and easy install, and I can't wait to see what this car looks like with the Eibach Sportline kit and to see how it rides with these new Koni shocks. For brakes, I have decided to go big, and that is because on most of the F30, F31 chassis, you get a standard brake package that doesn't consist of the M Performance brakes, which you see here. Some of the vehicles did come with M Performance brakes, and now there are like 340 millimeter version, 370 millimeter versions. There's the F80 brake upgrade that you can make. There are a lot of options. Took a little bit of time and some research to figure out what to get. The nice thing is this is a full bolt-on package, so I did source these calipers used. However, if you want to buy new calipers, FCP Euro does have them available, and the rest of the rotors and the pads, even the bolts, I sourced from FCP Euro. I know most of us do hate the fact that the hubs on the BMWs are studless. They're a pain in the butt to get wheels on and off. They sometimes fall, but the one saving grace is right now, right here, when I am about to clean the hub, the face, to get it ready for a new rotor, it is super easy. Check this out. Like, it really doesn't get much easier than that. Having to go around the studs is usually such a pain, but this way, this is now gonna be perfectly clean. And this is a pro tip. Always clean the face before you put on new rotors. A little bit of fluid film there to protect this surface because we're gonna be driving this car in the winter, and wow, that is perfect fitment, DP. That's a good sign here so far. And just check out the size of these rotors massive. Too. Like, yeah. What a crazy upgrade. Like, look, this is what was on here before, and we are going to that. So, wow, that looks pretty awesome. It does look like this caliper is going to fit up and bolt in, so that is a massive victory. And even better, the brake line, so I don't actually have to change the brake line. It is the exact same, so I'm just gonna take it off of this old single piston unit here, which this is gonna be a full hot swap. Let's see if I can make this happen. Spin this off, and then I'm gonna have to spin the other one on. How much room here? Gotta get this started. Gotta get it started. Oh, we're gonna have to clean up a lot. Oh no. Now my hands are getting slippery. EP. Oh no, the caliper is too big. Come on. It's catching, all right. With the pads fitted in place, our big brake kit up front is officially complete, and from a value perspective, I think this is the best bang for the buck, and more importantly, it is literally a bolt-on affair, so you really can't beat it. This is the 370 mil version, and as you can see, it's just so stunning, and in the rear, we have much of the same. You can see single piston setup, small little rotor, and we are going to this. 340 mil rotors, 2 piston calipers. And really, the question that I have for all you BMW experts or brake pad experts is, what are these? Obviously, they're weights added onto the brake pads. Is this a new method of quieting pads down, anti-rattle, or what? I've never seen it before. So this is, I think, the first BMW series, the F series, that has run these, I think. But again, post in the comments, let us know. Now, I thought long and hard about going buck wild with the engine performance mods, like a big turbo, but then I remembered this is a BMW, and from a performance or from a reliability standpoint, I'm just not 100% confident in it just yet. I know the B48 is supposed to be like really good, but we'll find out in about 5 or 6 years how good it really is. And DP, I don't know how to take this off.
The instructions say lift at the sides and pull back. But
lift at the sides and pull back?
Lift on the sides. Like pop it up on the sides if you can. And get a pry bar, a crowbar.
I see there's like rubber grommets here.
Okay.
Okay, there it is. See, I've lost my train of thought.
You got distracted thinking about reliable BMWs and living that whole
So let's say, long story short here, instead of going crazy with the mods, I just don't think it's worthwhile right now. I don't know the, you know, strength of this motor in terms of what it can and can't handle. I'm gonna do the bare minimum, which is an intake, an exhaust, and an ECU tune, which I think, you know, will bring this car up to a performance level that is much better. However, we'll still retain the reliability, which is really what I want from a daily driver standpoint. And the one thing I want to point out to you guys is watch the engine rock on this. Like, the motor mounts on this engine have to be so soft.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Look at this.
That is crazy.
Look at this. I was moving the axle, like, and it was just moving the whole car, or the whole engine. Like, this thing is just like floating there. That being said, it is remarkable. This does not feel like a 4-cylinder. When you drive this thing, like, it does not feel buzzy. Like, this is a dual balance shaft 4-cylinder, and 4-cylinders naturally just have like bad harmonics and vibration. And this one, man, it is really, really good. Now, to remove the stock intake, looks like a piece of cake as well. You just pop off all of the sides. I loosened one hose clamp down here. Oh, TP, faster than a Honda.
Nah.
Look at that, come on, wow. Now, let's see if the previous owner of this vehicle serviced it. Ooh, that looks good.
That looks brand new.
That looks real good. This car did have BMW brake pads on it, and it was doctor owned before, I do know that. So he probably took it to the BMW dealer and had it serviced regularly, which is a good thing.
A great expense.
That's right, that's right. I'm going with one of the best intakes on the market. This is the Dynon cold air intake, and check out the carbon fiber goodness of this thing, man. The construction on this is superb. One of the coolest air filters I've seen in a while. This is like the reverse style of every air filter I'm used to, where the other ones like taper in. This one actually tapers out, which is pretty neat. And like I said, everything is made out of real carbon fiber. It's gonna look awesome. There's some good gains to be had on it. But more importantly, my biggest thing is great instructions, and fitment is going to be perfect. You can see this thing fits up so nicely. I just have a couple of small little things to finish up here. So let's get this on and show you what it looks like. There we are, last clamp on, and oh, that looks good. I'm kind of embarrassed. The rest of the engine bay here, so dirty. And look, this is what I was talking about in terms of Dynon and their engineering. They just like really figure stuff out. Most companies wouldn't even do this. Look at this, they actually put this little like spigot here that will mount to this front little tray that goes on here, just to make sure that it has that like perfect OEM fitment. Like, look at that. That is so good. This intake is a closed intake. You can get a semi-open one, which has a hole cut in the back for more noise. But because I'm gonna be running this car all year round, I wanted the full closed off, so I'm not gonna get as much noise. So if you want that, certainly get the semi-open one, because it'll give you, I think, even more turbo noises. And I had to give the engine bay a quick spit shine just to make sure that the Dynon intake looked good. And as you can see, it looks pretty damn decent. From an exhaust upgrade standpoint, you can do the cat delete, which frees up a lot of power. However, I'm trying to keep this vehicle emissions compliant and clean. And looking at the actual, you know, turbo back exhaust system, the piping is quite large, even though it's ovalized here. This looks pretty big. I'd say this is 3-inch in many of the areas, and this does lead back to what you can see is a large muffler. It is dual tip, but it is a single exit, and my plan for this is a little unconventional. This is Dynon's free-flowing exhaust system from basically the axle back, and it is a work of art. However, you can see it does have 2 tips. So this is not for a 330i, this is for the 335, the 340s. However, luckily, you can make this upgrade to a twin tip design by merely just changing out this lower valence, which we'll show you in a second. This is going to require making a cut here. Thankfully, the Dynon instructions show exactly where. There's like this little dimple right here, like a punch. So we cut it there, and we're gonna put a slip fit piece on to mate the new exhaust system in place. And I've got the Sawzall out because, well, what else do you use here other than a Sawzall? So let's get this party started here. There we are. cut through. The old Sawzall, man, makes easy work of that thing. I do want to give credit where credit is due, and I think BMW does exhaust hangers right. Normally, you know, they're a part of the chassis, but this makes taking them off so much easier. You don't have to fight with anything. Look, that is just a bracket that bolts to the chassis with the exhaust hanger, and now this entire muffler with both of these brackets off will be able to come down. This is a big boy, DP. Look at this thing.
Unit.
And it had a little valve in it.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I never really heard any difference in noise. You can see it did have this electronic valve. So that was probably when you engaged sport mode, but yeah, she's a bit of a beast. We won't be using the actual valve actuator because the Dynon exhaust does not have that. So their instructions show us to just zip tie this away underneath here. Transferred everything over, and by that I mean the hangers. So now we just gotta bolt this up, and then I can show you what it's gonna look like. We've got a couple of trim options here too. Here we have two options. One is the OEM, which right now I'm leaning to. I really do like this like gunmetal color. And this is the aftermarket, which has a diffuser built in for all that aero goodness.
So
you can see
fancy.
just like more aggressive around these edges here. So here we have option one. As I said, it's really OEM-esque. I do like this bumper already the way it looks. And I mean, like these Dynon tips are stunning. They're gonna look really good. And I think the contrast in color is going to make them pop. So you can see this certainly has a more aggressive look. I just, I don't like it as much. I don't know why. You know, everybody always wants this like diffuser look. This is not an M car in any which way. So I think I'm gonna go with the other one. Post in the comments which one you guys like. I know this is the preferred one, the M Performance one that everybody goes to, but for me, the other one, I think, is the way to go.
Before we start this up so you can hear the intake and the exhaust, this engine is overdue for an oil change, and if you know anything about BMW ownership, you should not go over on your oil change intervals, although the old ones do change their own oil just by leaking it all in the driveway. What I do like about the old ones though is the oil filter housing would typically live up here and it was really easy to get at, and now, in typical BMW fashion, they decided to make it harder. Because now it means, you know, you're gonna look at that and think, I should just take it to the dealership and have them do the oil change, which is gonna cost you $1,000. We've got a 27 mil socket on a wobble on a half-inch drive. Not your typical DIY setup, is it, PT? Not everyone's gonna have a 27 mil and a wobble at home.
It's okay, DP.
Or,
look,
you know,
with
you
all
gotta-
that engine movement, you're fine.
Yeah, if you went to BMW, they'd have a specialty tool for this that they charge you $1,000 for, and it would be called the Flugenhammerschachten. But we're making this work, so maybe this isn't so bad after all, PT.
Let's see. Yeah, that wiring harness there is not ideal.
Not ideal, no.
No, I agree with you.
Does this even fit through here?
It should, DP. Come on.
I mean,
you can make it work.
All right.
Pull on it.
All right,
See,
there we go. All right, there you go.
Okay.
And what a tiny little filter that is, too. Time to insert the oil filter, which has this strange appendage on the end of it. But it does kind of like
DP, you
clock
gotta orient it.
You do.
It's the whole thing. So.
Why? Why do you have to orient it?
I don't know.
It's a circular filter going into a circular hole.
Somehow they've just thought up of great ways to make it hard for us.
Well, it does snap down in there nicely, so I'll give it that. It has a positive feel, so on goes the lid here. Last but not least, we are going to torque this lid very carefully to the specified 26 Newton meters because we don't want to anger the BMW oil gods, do we, PT? You've had a bit of a history with BMW oil in recent times, so playing it very safe here, everyone.
It's just V8 M3 problems, DP.
Well,
that's it. But this motor's different, I'm telling you. No more rod bearing issues.
I admire your eternal optimism, sir. For engine oil, we're using Valvoline's new Restore and Protect. We've been putting this in everything lately because it is their latest and greatest, and it can return your engine to like factory fresh after 4 oil change intervals. And interestingly, this BMW takes 0W20. Aren't we typically putting in like mud, basically, like
10W60
60 weight or something crazy?
That's right.
What happened? What happened, BMW?
Modern engines, DP, they all need like super thin weights.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I know what happened. BMW finally admitted their bearing sizes were terrible, and they've done something to update that, and now they can use like a normal oil weight. That's what's happened. They finally, after like 4 generations, said, oh, wait a minute, we shouldn't build our engines that require 60 weight mud. Why don't we use a modern oil so that we can get, like, I don't know, better economy, better reliability, better everything.
So we aren't gonna give you the fancy wheel and tire package that's going on this car in this episode. You will see that in the next one. However, I am running this wheel and tire setup for the winter time, and this is a Continental True Contact Tour 54, and this is an all-season tire. And winters have been getting much more mild here lately, so I've opted to try these out in the wintertime versus a full winter tire. So we'll see how that goes. We've never run these before on a vehicle such as this, so we will have a full review for you guys in the springtime. And this is a 235/40 19-inch tire mounted up to these BMW OEM 641M wheels in a 19 by 8.5 and 19 by 9 in the rear. These OEM wheels, by the way, which are F80 M3, a winter 19-inch winter wheel and tire package, look stunning on this car, I think, from a perspective of like OEM plus. They look really, really good. The fitment on them is pretty perfect. So offset-wise, they are fantastic. The one thing that I feel is lacking is window tint. And I'm back and forth on it. I do love having non-tinted windows, but at the same time, a black car just screams to have the windows tinted. So post in the comments, let me know, should I tint these windows or should I leave it as is? And tell me what you guys think about the ride height. These Eibach Sport lines to me are perfect. We've got basically just over a finger up front and just under a finger in the rear. To me, this is a practical, good look. It's not too high, it's not too low. And with these tires and wheels, I think there's gonna be no clearance issues. And can we just say, wow, the brakes on this setup are just like massive, super killer. This car just looks so, so mean right now. And as promised, let's fire this thing up to hear that Dynon exhaust and the intake. So let's see here.
Ooh, that's a deep tone.
That is good, DP. Ooh, that is, can a 4-cylinder sound that good?
It's burly.
That is like, oh, that is nice.
Deep.
Wow. Let's just stop talking for a second and we'll let you guys listen to it. So get ready, this Dynon intake sounds real good. I was not expecting it to sound this loud, but listen to it. Wow, how good is that?
It does sound nice.
That's like just the perfect amount of like that sucking noise and a little blow-off out flutter. Except of course, listen to this engine, DI. Direct injection is always so loud and clackety and noisy, but you know, it is modern day, so we do have to put up with it. And for the next episode, we will be doing a Dynon flash to see how much extra power this engine can pick up. And we have a really hot set of wheels and tires for the next episode, as well as a full interior swap and a ton of other really cool things. So stay tuned for the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching.